Hello everybody and welcome to the Year 4 homework review video. This is the first one of block 4 and we're doing English for this block. This week you were using your Schofield and Sims rapid test book and completing section 1, test 1 to 3, looking at comprehension skills, grammar and punctuation and spelling. So first of all, in section 1, test 1, this was on page 4 and 5, we had a short paragraph to read. This is called The Chase. In an instant, Theo changed direction, hurtling up a side road and into an alleyway. He skidded to a halt, gasping for breath and desperately looking around for a safe place. Spying a large wheelie bin, Theo ducked behind it and collapsed onto the ground, exhausted. With his heart pounding in his chest, he strained his ears for the sound of footsteps pursuing him. He couldn't hear anything. Had he lost them? A few minutes passed, still no footsteps. Theo's breathing was beginning to return to normal. He didn't dare move, though, just in case they were lurking round the corner, waiting for him to break cover. 10 more minutes passed, then another 10. After what seemed like an eternity, Theo allowed himself to peer around the side of the bin. There wasn't a soul in sight. Cautiously, Theo crept along the alleyway, keeping close to the wall to conceal himself as best as he could. Reaching the end, he poked his head around the corner, glancing nervously left and right. He half expected someone to grab him and pull him out of the shadows, but nobody did. All was quiet, and the street was deserted. Relieved, Theo set off in the direction of the safe house. Although it would take longer, he decided to take the less obvious route, sticking to the smaller side streets as much as possible. He glanced at his watch. It was 6:45 p.m. With any luck, he'd make it back by nightfall. If he didn't, the consequences didn't bear thinking about. And that's an extract called The Chase, which sounds very exciting, doesn't it? It's got lots of adverbial phrase openers in this sentence, which varies your sentence structure when you're writing and makes it interesting for the reader. So what I mean is that an adverbial phrase tells you where, when, or how something happens. So in an instant, Theo changed direction. Spying a large wheelie bin. With his heart pounding in his chest. After what seemed like an eternity. These are all examples of adverbial phrases. So they help tell your reader where, when, or how something happened. And they're really useful to use when you're writing to make your sentences, make your writing interesting for the reader by varying your sentence structures. So that's just something to remember. And of course today we are looking at reading skills. So question 1, what did Theo hide behind? And the answer is B, a bin. And if we look to find we can see it here, look, spying a large wheelie bin, Theo ducked behind it and collapsed onto the ground. And then later on, Theo allowed himself to peer around the side of the bin. So there are 2 points in that text where it tells us where he was hiding. What did Theo listen out for while he was hiding? And this was D, footsteps. He strained his ears for the sound of footsteps pursuing him. But he couldn't hear anything. Now we're asked, about how long did Theo remain hidden? Was it 1 minute, a whole day, 25 minutes, or 6 hours and 45 minutes? That's very specific. Let's have a look at the text. Now we could immediately eliminate a day because a full day is 24 hours. And he wasn't hiding behind the bin for that amount of time. So we could get rid of that option. That's actually meant to be my normal pen, not my highlighter pen. So remember, when you're doing multiple choice exercises, elimination is a useful tool to use when you know that an answer can't possibly be correct. But how long did he remain hidden? So let's have a look. Remember, the question says about. Roughly how long was he hidden? So he's hiding behind the bin, listening for footsteps, and he couldn't hear anything, wondering if he lost them. A few minutes passed, still no footsteps. He was beginning to calm down because the text tells us that his breathing was beginning to return to normal, but he didn't dare move. 10 more minutes passed, then another 10. 10 and 10 is 20, and we've already been told that a few minutes passed before those 10-minute sections. So C, about 25 minutes, is the right answer. And the time of day the story is set is the evening. So first of all, we've got the second to last paragraph. He half expected someone to grab him and pull him out of the shadows. So it was shadowy, so we can infer that it was nighttime. And then he glanced at his watch. It was 6:45 p.m. So there we are explicitly told that it's the evening. So again, there's 2 times there where you can find the time that it was set. So it's just about reading carefully and picking the correct information. Now for number 5, you have to write 2 phrases that show Theo was scared. And you should have picked gasping for breath, desperately looking around with his heart pounding. So he was struggling to breathe. He was desperately looking around and his heart was pounding in his chest. All of these things would give an indication that he was scared. And he felt relieved as he set off in the direction of the safe house because the streets were deserted and he was worried that somebody would grab him. So with this one, you would get 1 mark for referring to the fact that he was being chased, and another mark for referring to the fact that he was safe because there was nobody around. Now 4 words that you think best describe his different emotions are anxious, tense, fearful, and then at the end he was reassured when he realised that nobody was there and he wasn't going to be caught. Now number 8, this is about word meanings. So if you haven't done so already, it would be a good idea to write some of these down in your word and meaning books. Lurking and loitering, for example, these are synonyms, meaning the same thing, hanging around, waiting with intent to do something. Cautiously, you may or may not know, is a synonym for carefully. So if you didn't know that one, that would be a good one to record in your book. Conceal means to hide, like reveal means to show. Nervously and anxiously are synonyms. A route is a way through somewhere. And consequences are the effects of something. What can happen when something is done? So, now we're going to do a cloze activity. The passage below is the next part of the story, but it has had some of its words removed. Choose the correct words from the box and write the missing words on the lines. You may use each word only once. Now you'll do a lot of activities like this in year 5, and you've probably done some already with your verbal reasoning. It's really important to read beyond the gap. So continue reading past that missing word to give yourself an idea of what the sentences or the passage as a whole is trying to say. And when you choose a word, it's a really good idea to cross it out from the list so that you can keep track as you go. Breaking into a jog, Theo ducked into an alleyway. He didn't have far to go now. He'd soon be safely back with his friends. At the sight of the alleyway, Theo turned left. The safe house was almost within sight. Suddenly, there was an ear-splitting roar, and Theo felt himself being propelled backwards by a huge force pushing against his chest. Moments later, everything went black. So you need to check that each word makes sense in the gap, in the sentence. Okay, moving on to test 2 on pages 6 and 7. This time we're looking at tenses. Change the tense of each sentence into the tense written in brackets and write out the new sentence. So the example, I went shopping yesterday. This is a simple past tense sentence. If you write it in the future, you could say, I am going shopping tomorrow. You might say, I will go shopping tomorrow. So, 1a. The children watch in awe as the clown juggles with fire. This is a present tense sentence and it wants you to write it in the past, which would be the children watched in awe as the clown juggled with fire. So you add the suffix ed to watch, and juggle, take away the S and replace it with a D to make it past tense. Now B is a past tense sentence. Last year we went on holiday to South America. It wants you to write it in future. So you could say, next year we are going on holiday to South America. Or you could say, next year we will go on holiday to South America. Either will work. C. My sister had a pet parrot that could speak 3 languages. If you change that from past to present, it will read, my sister has a pet parrot that can speak 3 languages. And the past tense of this present tense sentence for D is the jaguar crept silently through the undergrowth. Now we're looking at conjunctions. And you had to underline the correct one in each set of brackets. And this is checking your tense and verb subject agreement. The band continued playing, although the last guest had gone home. Her watch stopped, and therefore she was late. I am allergic to dairy products, so I can't eat chocolate. And Marcus worked on his report until it was finally ready. So apart from C, A, B and D are all subordinating conjunctions which can be used to help you create complex sentences by adding a subordinate clause. And a subordinate clause doesn't make sense on its own. So the band continued playing. That's a main clause and that makes sense by itself. But adding the subordinate clause, although the last guest had gone home, adds a little bit more detail to the sentence, but can't be used on its own because it's just a phrase. It's a part of a sentence. But together, they make a complex sentence. C, so, is a coordinating conjunction, and there are 7 of these that you might have learnt about. You can remember them by using the acronym FANBOYS, and all of these conjunctions are as follows, if my text wants to work. So you have for, and, nor, which means neither, but, or, yet, and so. So you might want to make a note of those. They are coordinating conjunctions, and they can be used to make compound sentences. The difference between subordinating and coordinating conjunctions is coordinating conjunctions can join two main clauses together, and each main clause can make sense on its own. I am allergic to dairy products. I can't eat chocolate. I can't eat chocolate can be read by itself and still make sense. But adding the coordinating conjunction so just extends that sentence by linking them together, and that makes your writing flow more for the reader. But remember, if it's a subordinating conjunction, the subordinate clause does not make sense on its own. Number 3, this is about pronouns. I asked my mum to help me with my project. Lacey loved her little sister and always shared her toys with her. Jack's family adore their new dog, but it keeps chasing them, so it's chasing all the family, not just Jack. Robin Hood had his band of merry men with him. So the pronouns are referring to the subject of the sentence. So here that's I asked my mum to help me with my project. Lacey loved her little sister and always shared her toys with her. So Lacey is talking about her little sister. So that's who the pronoun refers to. Jack's family adore their new dog, but it keeps chasing them, and Robin Hood had his band of merry men with him. Now, number 4, we're looking at punctuation. Each sentence is missing 2 items. So you should have had an apostrophe for its. This is a contraction of it is, so the apostrophe replaces the I. It is very cold today, isn't it? Isn't is a contraction of is not. What are you doing? Max asked. Here we needed the question mark inside the inverted commas because that refers to what the child was saying. The hungry caterpillar ate 1 pear, 2 apples, a cucumber and a cabbage. We needed a comma here after pear and apples to separate multiple items in a list. And D, we have a colon, which is 2 dots, one on top of the other, and a full stop. I added these things to my shopping list: butter, jam, sugar and eggs. So a colon is often used before a list. Number 5, you had to reshuffle some of these sentences, writing the correct sentence on the line. The example, my likes sister football playing. My sister likes playing football. With these, think about basic sentence structure. A sentence always, in its simplest form, contains a subject and a verb. So a subject would be who or what the sentence is about, and the verb is an action word. What are they doing? This first sentence says, how many children are there in your class? Or it could be phrased to say, in your class, how many children are there? And then the second sentence, this starts with a determiner, the. A determiner introduces a noun. The 3 ducks quacked loudly. A determiner could be the, a, or an, or it might be some, or many. So a determiner introduces a noun. And that's something you don't need to think about too much, but it's just worth knowing and having in your mind. Sometimes sentences will start with pronouns. So again, that's thinking about the subject of the sentence. Who or what is it about? My mum bought me a new mobile phone. Louis works at the supermarket on Saturdays. Or you might say, on Saturdays, Louis works at the supermarket. Either order is fine. They both make sense, and that's key. You need to reread the sentences to make sure that they do make sense. Here we have another determiner. The British weather is rather unpredictable. And now we have a pronoun. She found the book extremely difficult to read. Well done, everybody. Hope that is helpful so far. We're going to have a look at test 3 on pages 8 and 9. First of all, you are underlining the word in each set of brackets that means the opposite of the word in bold. These are otherwise known as antonyms. So we had above and below, simple and complex. This might be one for your word and meaning books. It's another way of saying complicated. Accept and refuse. So not accept, but accept. I accept your offer of help. Thank you very much. And deep and shallow. You will know. Now we're looking at apostrophes for contractions. Is not becomes isn't. So had not becomes hadn't. She would becomes she'd. As in, she'd do that for me if I asked her. So that removes quite a lot of letters there. You are becomes you're. You're a great dancer, she said. And they are becomes their. Okay, so your and your, and there are 3 types of there, can all be quite confusing. So let's just have a look at those. Your, spelt like this, would be, can I borrow your pen? Or I really like your dress. But when it's got an apostrophe, like this example here, that's a contraction of you are, okay? You're coming to my party tonight, aren't you? You are coming to my party tonight, aren't you? And then as for there, we've also got 2 other spellings of this. And this is one we have to learn to use the right one at the right time. So this first one here. What's that over there? Exclaimed the boy. I live over there, he said, pointing at his house. This spelling shows belonging. The girls put on their shoes to go out for a walk. The football team couldn't find their socks in the changing room. Whereas this one is a contraction for they are. They're getting ready to play their football match. They are getting ready to play their football match. So remember, you can pause this video at any time if you want to copy some of these down and make some notes in your jotters. Using the correct versions of these words is very important. Now, number 3, one word in each set does not go with the others. Underline the odd one out. And in the example, we've got freezing because all the others describe hot weather. So A, frown, smile and scowl, they're all facial expressions, but laughing is an action. Spinach, tomato, celery and lettuce. Tomato is red and the others are usually green. A foe, nemesis and opponent, these are all synonyms, other words for enemy. And group, team and class, these are all different types of group. Now, different spellings, these are homophones. You have to decide which one is the correct word for each sentence. So the trainers were 20% off in the summer sale. This other spelling of sale is used to describe sailing on the sea or a sail on a boat. While on holiday, Tom's family went to visit a famous creek. So double E for a body of water. This is the sound, the creaking sound. The floorboards made a terrible creak. And Grandma gasped and said, "Surely you've grown." So this underlined spelling means to get taller, whereas this one is referring to a moan. I groaned because I had to do my homework. The school fair was great fun. This spelling is the money you would have to pay to buy a bus ticket, for example. The train fare, the bus fare cost me £3. After winning the race, the boy received a medal. This spelling means to interfere, to meddle with somebody else's business. And the sheep could not walk over the grate. This, of course, is an adjective to describe something good. That TV show was great. Number 5, each sentence below contains an incomplete word. And you had to write out the sentences on the line, filling in the missing letters to correctly spell the word. So in our example we had, you should always be consider something of others. And the words were, or the letters were A-T-E, to make considerate. That means you should think about other people. So 5A, we were looking for U-R-E. She took great pleasure in telling them the news. And B is I-O-N. It was a difficult decision, but he had no choice. Sarah was jealous of her friend's new computer. And the book is basically a horror story, double L-Y. And that brings us to the end of our review video. So hopefully that has been useful for you, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.